Recent media reports suggest that Tanzania, perhaps buoyed by the successful hijacking of Uganda's oil pipeline to the port of Tanga, is plotting to hijack Uganda's standard gauge railway down south, again from Kenya. Tanzania has dangled lower costs of its railways as a carrot, the reports say. A kilometer of rail in Tanzania, so the narrative goes, will cost $1.5 million, while in Uganda it is said to cost $7.3 million per kilometer. The cost of a ton of cement in Uganda will cost $180, while in Tanzania it will cost $100. And the cost of steel in Tanzania will cost $680, while the ton of steel in Tanzania will cost $680, while it will cost $700 in Uganda. Tanzania is also promising to prioritize the construction of the 1,219-kilometer SGR line from Dar es Salaam to Mwanza port on the Lake Victoria, which is the border point between Tanzania and Uganda, the sources say. This is a tall order, and this is why. Tanzania is inviting Uganda to abandon its own SGR ambitions and rely on Tanzania instead. Uganda is being asked to retain its archaic 19th century railway line so that Tanzania's SGR can remain profitable. If Uganda falls for the trick, it will have to abandon its 1,617-kilometer network, which is projected to save the country some $2 billion in freight costs a year. And Uganda will also have to abandon the South Sudan line, thus hurting its business interests in South Sudan. Further, an oil pipeline and SGR are manifestly different projects, serving different needs. The purpose of the oil pipeline is to evacuate oil from Hoima oil field to the sea for export. The standard gauge railway, on the other hand, will open and link a country's regions, create new business opportunities for people neighboring the line, ease the cost of transport, and improve on transit time. In effect, the oil pipeline has no direct linkage with the local economy, while the SGR has direct links with the local economy. Consequently, Uganda will be transferring her potential benefits to Tanzania if she abandons her SGR project. This means that Uganda will have to ship her imports and exports through Tanzania's ports. That will be the greatest of deceptions. We hope it remains the fantastic dream it currently is. Marine transport across Lake Victoria collapsed more than a decade ago, says the Monitor report. It will thus need massive investment in infrastructure and marine vessels and equipment to meet the demands of a modern high-speed railway. Short of this, marine transport across the Lake Victoria will become a bottleneck, nay, a logistical nightmare to Uganda's international trade. The distance between Tanzanian ports and Ugandan ports on Lake Victoria is more than 500 kilometers. However, the distance by road ranges between 733 kilometers and 966 kilometers. The travel time on these roads ranges between 13 and 17 hours. The journey across the lake could take more than 8 hours of travel, assuming a seamless transfer of freight. This compares negatively with 2 hours by high-speed train from Malaba to Kampala. This section is 273 kilometers long, and according to reports, it will cost $2.3 billion to construct an SGR. This works out to an average of $8.5 million, which includes compensation to landowners displaced by the railway line. Already, some of the owners have already been compensated and have relocated. The Uganda line is part of the Northern Corridor SGR project, which is classified as Class 1. The Northern Corridor freight trains will be double stack, meaning they can carry twice as much cargo as the Tanzanian and Ethiopian lines. The 600-kilometer Mombasa-Nairobi section of the Northern Corridor cost $3.804 billion. At first glance, this works out to $6.3 million per kilometer. However, a close look at the project contract reveals that it had two contract components. Contract 1 is the construction of the SGR from Mombasa to Nairobi, which cost $2.66 billion, meaning the cost per kilometer was $4.43 million. Contract 2 is for the supply and installation of facilities, locomotives and rolling stock for Mombasa to Nairobi SGR at $1.44 billion. This involved the supply of 56 locomotives, 40 passenger coaches, and 1650 freight wagons. It is therefore safe to assume that the cost of the Malaba-Kampala line also includes the supply and installation of facilities such as and rolling stock, without which a railway is not a railway line but a metal snake. The Tanzanian line, which like the Ethiopian one is Class 2, will haul 2-kilometer long trains according to an investor briefing prepared for Rwanda government. The same document says that the scope of works for the 7.6 billion Tanzanian line will include upgrading of the 960-kilometer Dar es Salaam-Isaka section to standard gauge standard, keeping to the existing alignment as much as possible. Tanzania will only build around 320 kilometers of greenfield standard gauge railway between Isaka and Keza on the border with Rwanda. Even then, the narrative of a railway line costing $1.5 million per kilometer looks like a myth. According to Daily News, a Tanzanian daily publication, the 300-kilometer Dar es Salaam-Morogoro section, which comprises of 205 kilometers mainline and 95-kilometer interchange, will cost $1.215 billion. This works to an average of $4.05 million per kilometer and does not include compensation for land. The Tanzanian line is therefore just $38,000 cheaper than Kenya's. Tanzania concocted the weird scheme, it seems, to scuttle the Northern Corridor, which originates from the port of Mombasa in Kenya, and attract freight to its port in order to make its line profitable. According to the investor briefing referred to earlier, Tanzania can only generate 3.1 million tons of freight a year in a line designed to carry 17 million tons a year. This makes the line unviable right at the design stage.